She was 15 years old. She carried a school bag. She wanted to learn. On October 17, 1961, the French Republic threw her into the Seine. Her name was Fatima Bedar. Fatima Bedar was born on August 5, 1946, in Tichy, a town in Little Kabylia, Algeria. She was the daughter of Hossein Bedar, a former Algerian rifleman who had fought for France in the Second World War, and Chahida Bedar, a strong and courageous mother. At the tender age of 5, Fatima left her native Algeria for France. Her family's new life was a world of shanty towns, and then sprawling workers' housing projects, moving between the gritty suburbs of Paris, Saint-Denis, Aubervilliers, Sarcelles, Staines. It was a childhood in exile, a life defined by displacement. But even in these harsh conditions, it was a childhood lived with dignity, a childhood standing tall. Fatima learned to navigate this new world, a world between two shores, a world that would shape her destiny. Fatima had a dream. She wanted to become a schoolteacher, to share the knowledge she so desperately sought. But the system had other plans for her. She was directed toward a commercial vocational school, a path chosen for her because she was Algerian, because she was the daughter of a factory worker, because the prejudices of the era decided her fate before she could. She grew up in a household buzzing with nationalist fervor. Her father was an active member of the National Liberation Front, the FLN, fighting for Algerian independence. From a young age, Fatima would sometimes listen in on clandestine meetings, absorbing the passionate discussions about freedom and justice. When the Algerian War for Independence erupted in 1954, Fatima was just 8 years old. But she understood what was at stake. She understood quickly, perhaps too quickly. In the autumn of 1961, the political climate in Paris was explosive. The prefect of police, Maurice Papon, imposed a strict curfew. This was not a curfew for all Parisians. It was a discriminatory measure, applied only to those designated as French Muslims of Algeria. In response, the FLN called for a mass, peaceful demonstration to protest this injustice. Fatima's parents planned to attend. They were committed to the cause. They asked Fatima, their eldest, to stay home, to look after her younger siblings. She was 15. She was responsible. But she refused. An argument broke out. A clash between parental concern and youthful conviction. That day, Fatima left for school as usual. But that evening, she made a choice that would seal her fate. She didn't go home. Instead, she joined the demonstration, alone, with her school bag still on her back, a 15-year-old girl walking toward history. The night of October 17, 1961, descended into a nightmare. Paris, the city of lights, became a city of terror. The police were unleashed with brutal force. They struck, they arrested, they beat, they killed. Tens of thousands of peaceful Algerian men, women, and children were rounded up, herded into detention centers, and subjected to horrific violence. On the bridges spanning the Seine, the police committed unspeakable acts. In the chaos of this state-sponsored massacre, Fatima Bedar was caught. She was beaten. Then she was thrown into the dark, cold waters of the Seine. She couldn't swim. She fought for her life, but the river consumed her. She disappeared into the night. The next day, a frantic Hossein Bedar went to the police to report his daughter missing. He was met not with help, but with humiliation, with threats, with contempt. He was pushed around, his pleas ignored. For 2 agonizing weeks, Fatima's mother, pregnant at the time, wandered the streets of Paris, a ghost of grief, crying out her daughter's name, praying for a miracle. The miracle never came. On October 31st, Fatima's body was found, snagged in the mechanics of a lock on the Saint-Denis Canal. Her father was called to identify the body. He recognized her instantly by her long, beautiful black braids. In that moment of unimaginable pain, the police forced him to sign a document. The document stated that his daughter's death was a suicide by drowning. A state lie written in a language Hossein Bedar could not read. For decades, an official silence shrouded the events of that night and the fate of its victims. The massacre was erased from public memory, a shameful secret buried by the state. But the truth cannot be suppressed forever. Through the tireless work of investigators and historians like Didier Deninx and Jean-Luc Einaudi, the wall of silence began to crumble. Testimonies emerged, archives were opened. The truth about Fatima Bedar and so many others was finally brought to light. It was no suicide. Fatima Bedar was murdered on October 17, 1961, a victim of a state crime. She became a chahida, a martyr, a moudjahida, a freedom fighter. She became a powerful symbol of all the innocent children whose lives were stolen by colonialism, a symbol of a stolen childhood. Today, Fatima Bedar's memory is alive. A public garden in Saint-Denis, the city where she lived and died, bears her name. A neighborhood in her birth town of Tichy is named in her honor, and her school bag, the one she carried on that fateful night, is now displayed at the Museum of the Moudjahid in Algeria, a sacred relic of her sacrifice. But most importantly, her name has been returned to history, rescued from the oblivion the state had intended for it. Her story is no longer a secret whispered in grief, but a truth proclaimed for all to hear. Fatima Bedar, 15 years old, she died for freedom. We will not forget.